The United States of America. How did they get all this land? How did they manifest their destiny? If they started just from this, 13 colonies just acquired independence from the British. I mean, that's not entirely true. They actually got all the area east of the Mississippi River and north of present-day Florida. That was a pretty good start, but that was not enough. Did you really think that this was it? They had to manifest their destiny even more. They saw this big old piece of land over here, and Napoleon needed cash to fund his naval invasion into Britain. So he agreed to sell them the land for just $15 million, which would be around $400 million in 2024. They also settled their northern border with Britain. It went along the 49th parallel, so they gained a little piece of land over here, but they lost some there. But there was this ongoing border dispute with the Spanish, right here near the Spanish Texas, and they also had this territory, which they couldn't afford, so they just gave it to the United States. In exchange, they would settle the border dispute. There was this certain territory called Texas, now ruled by Mexico, but the Mexican government wanted new settlers to go to their new nation, and they sure did, but they implemented some new rules which pissed off Texans, so they started revolting and won. So now there's this new country called Texas, but they had territorial disputes with Mexico, claiming way more land than they had. But then they joined the United States, and now instead of Texas a Mexican dispute, there was American-Mexican dispute. Oh, and there was this big dispute with the British, but now they signed a treaty that's gaining all these new lands. But the conflict with Mexicans continued. Eventually, it led into a war, and the Americans absolutely destroyed the Mexicans and annexed all these lands. But at least they paid them $15 million for these lands. So a couple years later though, they bought some more land from Mexico, now for just $10 million. So now all their border disputes were settled, and they lived happily ever after. But then the Russian government approached them if they wanted to buy Alaska, and they said yes for just $7.2 million. Alaska was now American, but suddenly an American ship exploded, and they thought the Spanish did it. It eventually led to a war, and they won. So they took control over Cuba and the Philippines. And they annexed Hawaii along the way. But Cuba got independence 4 years later. Then World War II happened, and Japan started to bomb the US and started to occupy the Philippines, but they lost, and by the end of the war, the Philippines started revolting for independence from America. And they got it, so that's how the USA gained and lost all their lands.